Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming to episode 11 of Off the Fields. On today's episode, Paris will be joining us shortly, so just stand by. But on today's episode, we're going to be talking about Deion Sanders. Basically, Reggie Bush made a comment recently saying that he predicts that Coach Prime is going to leave the Colorado football program and possibly be headed towards the NFL. Second, we're going to be talking about the latest updates with Michigan and the investigation scandal. People are getting fired. The evidence is just stacking against the football program, and they're in hot water. And thirdly, we're going to be talking about ESPN. ESPN is being allegedly accused of stealing story ideas from social media platforms. So, there's Paris. So let's bring Paris on here. There is Paris. Okay, so I was just, introducing the episode and I was just letting everybody know that we're starting off talking about Deion Sanders, right? I mean, you are the one who told me about the issue with Deion Sanders and Reggie Bush. What's going on with that?
So I actually found the story very intriguing. So I know that Deion said that he would never go to the NFL, and many people believe that Deion is suited for college football, and this is where he will stay. But Reggie Bush actually believes that Deion Sanders will eventually make his way to the NFL. Now, I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard this, Brianna, I was like, okay, I'm over this. He said he's not going. Let's not drag the story. But when he gave his reasoning, to me, it made 100%. It made 100% sense. And now I'm on board that Deion Sanders will be going to the NFL. This was Reggie Bush's reasoning. Listen to this. He said, in my opinion, Deion Sanders is one of the best coaches in football right now. NFL, college, I don't care. He's one of the best coaches. I have a feeling the NFL is going to come knocking on the door, and I think that his rightful place is the NFL. Once his sons are gone, because I think what he's doing with his sons is history. When's the last time we've seen a head coach and his son, a star quarterback, on the same team together? The script is writing itself.
I know.
After that, Brianna, I was like, okay, he's going to the NFL.
So, I mean, the latest rumors about him going to the NFL, Deion answered these questions in the press conference, and he said that he has no interest in going to the NFL right now. But I don't think that he should be leaving as early as what Reggie Bush is predicting, because he's had such a huge impact with the program. He brought him back to life, and it feels like, not saying that because they didn't go undefeated, that he's going to just up and leave because the results aren't there. The results are there in many other ways. You know what I'm saying? We see the branding, we see the marketing, we see the revenue that he's bringing to the university. I'm talking millions of dollars in such a short period of time. So I think that the idea of him leaving, I think that it's possible. I think that it's definitely an option. I just don't think that it's going to be happening as soon as we think it is. I was telling you that Reggie Bush, I mean, for him to make this comment, it does hold some weight because it's Reggie Bush and he's finally speaking on something. He hasn't been speaking on much. I mean, he's an analyst, but I don't think that certain things that Reggie Bush says are trending in the way that he made this comment, right? It's big because he's the one introducing it in a way where it's like, this may happen and there's some truth to it. Do him and Deion Sanders have a relationship? I don't know, possibly, but I think it's more on a professional level. I wouldn't say it's more on a personal level where he actually is confirmed that information. So
No. I think it was more so a thought and what he thinks. And honestly, I have to agree. Deion Sanders, he didn't even sign a contract extension. And I think that tells you a lot right there. He also has publicly said that he doesn't plan on staying at Colorado, within the next 5 years.
mm-hmm.
So I think that, with so much stuff that's going on with Colorado, it's kind of hard. People aren't paying attention to the little detail of the whole story. Shadir, he does have another year in college football, And they have also said as well that if he's not going to be the number one pick, that most likely he's going to be back again next year,
Yeah.
which that Deion will have another chance coaching him next year. But in terms of 3-4 years, I don't know. I personally don't see Deion staying that long at Colorado. But I do believe that once his sons are in the NFL, that he will try to make his way through that door as well. And I think it'll be interesting because we all know that the NFL has lacked when it came to the diversity in their coaching, especially the head coaching position. And we know that, the industry people, everyone has been trying to knock that door down for there to be more Black coaches. And I think that this is going to usher in possibly Deion being another Black head coach in the NFL by way of his son.
If Deion Sanders, if he is one of the coaches, he's not going to be the first Black head coach in the NFL, but their most recent hire, if that's Deion Sanders in the NFL, that's going to make waves. And it's going to be so significant that I think other coaches are going to start considering going to the NFL. Now, let's not say that, Shedeur is a good quarterback. He has a lot more work to do. Okay. He's still very young. I think that Jackson State helped prepare him in a way, but it's also because of who his dad is. And, they're bringing a superstar coaching staff to Colorado. You understand? Like, you have T.O. there. You have Warren Sapp there. Of course, he has visitations from other NFL legends. But I think that Shedeur Sanders, is going to take time for him to become a more skilled quarterback. I think that he's just still young with the experience. I think it shows. I think that he carries a lot of weight because of who he is, being Deion Sanders' son. But I think it's going to take a lot more work. I think that, if he goes first round in the NFL, I think that that's going to have a lot to do with his dad, not necessarily just based on his performance alone. So I do think I hear what you're saying as far as, Deion is going to leave when they are of age and done and they're ready for the NFL. But I think that's just going to take some time. You know what I'm saying? And it may take longer than what Reggie Bush is trying to say. Like, it's going to be, I don't think he's saying it's going to happen soon, but just to put that on the radar so there are no surprises,
I don't think he put a timeline on it. So I don't think he said within a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. But just aligning with what Deion said and aligning with his sons and how many years of eligibility they have but at the most 3 years.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Deion did say that he doesn't intend on being there anything past 4 years. But then that also makes me question, where are you gonna I don't believe that, I honestly personally believe that he will go to another university to coach a different college team. I really don't see anywhere for Deion to land. And I don't think Colorado wants to get rid of him, They've done a huge turnaround just in this season alone. Even if they don't make a bowl game, again, they surpass, what they did last season. That says enough right there.
But we can just imagine him in the NFL as a head coach. People are going to love that. We are going to love to see that. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be embraced on a different level as opposed to the Black NFL coaches that are already in the league. You know what I'm saying? And it's also, I think that's going to be so embraced and very high praise in a way because of what he just did at Colorado in the transitioning phase. He's shown each of his transitions have not only been lucrative, but they've been smooth in a way and they've worked out. I think he's taken risks that other coaches are not doing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that he has a huge advantage working with his kids on the same team and being able to coach them hands-on.
I have to ask you this question because, the NFL is very different from college sports in general. Just like the NBA is very different from, college basketball. The elite gymnastics world is different from college gymnastics. So the question I have for you, and I want your honest, authentic opinion. In college football, Deion Sanders is able to, in a way, put himself on the forefront. Yeah. We know that when he transitioned from Jackson State to Colorado, how a lot of things was about him. We know that a lot of things was about Deion Sanders. And, with that being said, in the NFL, I don't know if he will be as big of a figure. Not saying that he won't be important, but how do you think, because the NFL is big. The NFL, like, in a way, no player, no coach, especially a coach, can be bigger than the NFL in itself. Like, Nick Saban can be when it comes to college football, or like Deion Sanders. He's, I don't want to say he's almost bigger than college football, but he is almost like the brand, and Colorado, everything that comes with it is just, things that follow behind him. But in the NFL, the franchise is much bigger, as than the people involved in the franchise. So how do you think his big personality will like translate, in the NFL? Also, too, he's not coaching college kids, and I've heard, being the NFL insider that I am,
Yeah.
have a number of NFL connections. I have heard that, even with Urban Meyer, I heard that you can't coach the NFL guys as you can with college football, because you're dealing with grown men, not boys. Um, and I've heard that even when it came to Urban Meyer coaching in the NFL, that was one of the biggest differences, was that those guys in the NFL weren't going to be treated like college boys, but they were going to be treated and respected as as grown men. So how do you think that Deion's transition in terms of his big personality will be going to the NFL?
I think Deion, I think, if he's a coach in the NFL, I think that his personality, I think that there's going to be a certain level of respect that's already there from these NFL players. I think that his coaching style, I think we're going to see the versatility. I think that we'll see it in a way that it's going to be surprising. I think he's going to be up under a lot of pressure. You know what I'm saying? I think that he's not going to have room for mistakes, but I mean, we know that mistakes are going to happen. I just think that people are going to put a lot of pressure on him in a way to where, he may not last in the NFL, but because of him being an NFL legend, there's a lot of respect there. And I think that a lot of people want to work with him. I think that he's shown that he's a team player. He's easy to work with. He's not like this flamboyant, arrogant head coach at a college, at a PWI right now. He's not arrogant. You know what I'm saying? He may be, entertaining. I think that's fine. He's always been that way since the 80s, since the 90s. I mean, that's who he's been. Prime time, right? Coach Prime, Prime Time, Showtime. He's had all these names. So I think that he's going to be bringing revenue to the NFL, just like Taylor Swift did. You know what I'm saying? I think that if he's a head coach, he can bring that same type of momentum. He can bring in that same revenue, because look how much money, I mean, not just the money, but look how many people tuned in to a team that they never even thought of. And I know that it's college football, but just imagine, in the NFL, people are just going to want to be curious to see his versatility and his transition from the college football to the NFL. So I think that his personality would be fine. I don't think that he's a person where you can't tell him what to do or he knows it all. I don't think he's like that. And I think that, other coaches go in who they didn't even play in the NFL, but they play by the book. You know what I'm saying? But he's been on and off the field. So I just think that with him, we can expect great things from him in the NFL. I think that his personality would mesh really well. And I think that the only problems that we may see arise are the ones that are like, where those are the players who don't give the respect to him. I think that he may come off already expecting that, well, this is who I am, and do you understand who you're working with? He may come off that way to some of the players, but overall, I think his personality would mesh pretty well. So I hope we see Deion in the NFL. If it happens sooner than later, let's not be surprised, because we told you guys, but I'm super excited to even know that Reggie Bush was the one who initiated this comment, because where's Reggie been? I mean, just out of curiosity, he hasn't been trending or anything. So I think it's really cool.
Well, you know what? So this is going to go into the next topic. I think one of the biggest problems that Reggie Bush has recently had is he is working on getting his Heisman back. And a lot of people are not for that. A lot of people in the media aren't for that. So they haven't been sharing that narrative. But, Reggie Bush was, as many people believe, was wrongfully convicted.
Yeah.
That's the means of taking his Heisman from him. But he's been working, and actually he's in a current suit now on getting his Heisman back. I hope that happens for him because, we all know what went down. And it wasn't right, especially with the changes that are being made in the NCAA today. I believe that he should definitely be reinstated of that honor, but it is actually disappointing, not to see him at the Heisman Awards, not to see him, being honored as a Heisman winner.
I mean, when he was wrongly convicted, look at the Deshaun Watson case. He had a $230 million football contract, and he was, even before he got the he was already in the process of the trial, of the accusations, of the court, everything. And he was still able to play. Things have just changed so tremendously in the league when it comes to rules and regulations and the policies that, yeah, I would say Reggie Bush deserves his Heisman Trophy back. I think that he's definitely been in the clear for years now. He's a broadcaster. He's an analyst. He's still a part of the NFL in many ways. And so the fact that he's been able to be in that space, why wouldn't he be able to get his Heisman Trophy back? At this point, if he didn't get his Heisman Trophy back, then it would just look really like, I don't know, in a way discriminatory. Of course, we're going to throw that out there because that's what it comes down to anyways with the NFL. And, he's done his due diligence by being an analyst, which is something that they highly recommend and push anyways for football players who are not able to play on the field anymore. But I think Reggie Bush is going in the right direction. And speaking of big organizations and big networks, I think ESPN being accused of allegedly stealing news from other news outlets and not giving them credit, I'm not surprised. I just found out that there was a class action lawsuit against ESPN for this exact same thing. You can look it up. And this happened just last year in 2022. We didn't hear much about it, but I think that now, they use ESPN basically, according to the reporter Brett McMurphy, he's a worldwide leader. I would say, being a part of that platform that is. They like to steal the stories to make it seem like they broke the news first, right? And because they already have that notoriety, right? That this is the breaking news. They're definitely going to have it, right? But I think that they face a lawsuit. The violation of the journalistic ethics, that's a huge thing because many journalists like ourselves, we think that you make it to the ESPN, we think that, oh, this is creme de la creme, right? But this month, they released a digitally manipulated video featuring Damian Lillard, who was, the whole trade issue was just so wrong. But anyways, we won't go there. They did an interview with Lillard, and that interview was done when he played with the Portland Trailblazers, in which he had been with them forever. And they edited the footage to give the impression that Lillard's comments from 3 years ago were just made after his debut game with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, we know that's through editing, right? You can edit and clip stuff and position it in a certain place in the video to make it seem like this person started off talking about this and then they went into a different topic. I think that happens in media all the time. It happens in news and everything. But when ESPN does it, it's just like, why would you do that? And it's like, this is where we come in to help change the narrative, right? You have news outlets like ESPN who like to keep a certain narrative when it comes to certain athletes. And Damian Lillard falls in that category now. You know what I'm saying? We've seen it many a times, especially with stuff like Ray Rice, like Reggie Bush. The narrative is always the same, no matter what. They will go in and pull files and archives from years ago. Yeah. Things that aren't even relevant to that person's current success. And it's like, for them to change the footage to give a different impression other than what was really said in the interview is messed up. And the fact that they're being caught out on it, I'm happy. I'm glad. And I think it should actually go even further to do more research to see how many athletes did they betray this way.
And I think that what's more, I think what people should know more is that they actually took the old interview, they changed the court, and they actually altered his jersey.
Wow.
Because he was playing for the Portland Trailblazers during that interview. So they actually changed his jersey, took off the emblem, put the Milwaukee up there to make it seem as if that was a current interview, which it wasn't. And it's even more mind-blowing, the official tweet from SportsCenter, because Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, they actually, anytime you post tweets that are of footages or photos that have been altered, it will actually tell you in the tweet.
Oh,
So
wow.
ESPN's Twitter, it says underneath disclaimer, this video was digitally altered. So it lets you know that that's not even, it lets you know that that post, that video that ESPN shared was not the original video, but that it is photoshopped. And that tweet is still on the account today.
And you know what? It just lets you know, like, this is beyond AI. I mean, ESPN has had the ability to do this before AI even came into the picture. Yeah, we all like the AI stuff right now, but I mean, for me, it's like very dishonest, and it's definitely unethical in sports media to the athletes. You know what I'm saying? I think that with Damian Lillard, I think that if he continues to be vocal about it, I think that some things could change. But it just lets you know that you can't necessarily trust huge outlets like ESPN all the time. Just, you know what I'm saying? And I think that as an athlete, you have to speak up about how you want your image to be perceived when they run these stories or documentaries or interviews, because they can switch it and make it look like something else that it's not. And then boom, the narrative is put out there to millions of people because millions of people watch ESPN. They just celebrated like reaching like, I don't know, over 8 million followers or something like that. So, I mean, this is what I know. I know that ESPN had the class action suit, and the suit claimed that details of the video content on ESPN.com and like ESPN Plus subscribers have been shared by media companies with Meta platforms without consent. And they're also using like metal pixels. So they are on the back end of these websites to get access to these things to be able to make these type of alterations. And it's not fair. And somebody is going to have to call out the big dog. ESPN is the big dog. I mean, they're owned by Walt Disney, but Walt Disney has their own issues going on as well. So, I mean, ESPN they've had plenty of lawsuits before, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to something like this is important for the player, for the athlete to actually remain vocal about how they don't agree with what ESPN did in regards to their image, especially switching to another team that you didn't want to go to. You wanted to come to Miami Heat, not the Milwaukee Bucks, you know? So ESPN has a lot of work that they need to do, honestly.
This isn't, I mean, I've seen reporters from other publications actually call out reporters from ESPN saying how they stole their interviews and use them as if they themselves interview that athlete. I've seen people from smaller publications do this time and time again. So it actually does make you question now, is ESPN even a reliable source? Where are you getting your interviews from? If your reporters actually aren't on the field, who are they getting these quotes from?
Right.
And that's, that's, it's already bad enough that in the world of journalism and media that many reporters, publications are being questioned for their ethics. And it's hard because there are journalists who actually do go out and do good journalism.
Mm-hmm.
But we're so thirsty to break news or be the first to break the news. They're almost willing to do anything, to sacrifice their integrity for a story.
And reporters.
People don't talk about 2 weeks later about. Let's just be honest.
Right. I remember years ago when Ohio State won the national championship, Cardell Jones was the quarterback, and I had footage of Cardell, and Fox Sports reached out to me asking me if they could use some of that footage. And back then, I was an undergrad at Ohio State, but I felt that's the appropriate way. That's the way that you ask even a student for their content. You know what I'm saying? So for ESPN to not even ask, it's like they just feel that they are above the law. And that's how it is with some of these major sports organizations, ESPN being a sports media network, but they feel like they're above the law. They can't be touched. But, if you're ready to call out ESPN like that, just be ready to go to war with them, because they're going to fight nail and tooth, obviously. Just look at the Sage Steele, lawsuit thing that's going on right now. It's very sensitive. And you know what? They're fighting nail and tooth against that woman who was there for at least 16 years. So ESPN I really think that they don't really value the reporters anymore. The authenticity is not really there. And you're right. We now have to question the credibility when it comes to sources and information they're putting out about the NBA, the NFL, and just certain athletes in general. So just be careful, you guys, about what you read on ESPN. Everything is not accurate, and it's not true. And they are not always the first ones to get it, so that's
and applications as well, not just ESPN, but if ESPN are doing it, you got to believe that there are other publications or other reporters from other publications that are doing the same thing, especially bigger publications who can get away with doing this, unlike smaller publication, whereas if they take something from like ESPN, they're going to be hit with a quick lawsuit, if they don't change things around. So it's unfortunate, but it's just. And he called ESPN. That former reporter called ESPN out. He tweeted at them, and he was like, I find it ironic how you are talking about this story and this narrative, but you yourself steal reports from other news outlets.
Yeah, it's messy, and I just let you know that you can't really trust ESPN anymore. Look at all the lawsuits, look at all the firings, look at all the layoffs. ESPN is just not what it is anymore. So,
it's almost what is going on in the sports world when it comes to stealing?
Yeah, talk about stealing, right?
Publications to football teams. what is in the water?
I don't know what's in the water. I just know that right now everybody loves Deion Sanders, and we love that type of energy. You know what I'm saying? We love those vibes. And so we love that realness too. You know what I'm saying? And some universities are not keeping it real. Paris, you want to?
Speaking of universities, Brianna is referring to her favorite, the Michigan Wolverines.
Oh my gosh, you could never say that again.
Speaking of universities, I know last week we talked about Michigan. Today, more news dropped. Literally more news dropped just about an hour ago. Michigan will look to take legal action against the Big Ten if they suspend Coach Jim Harbaugh. Last week, I told you guys how the president of the University of Michigan, Santa, met with the commissioner, the Big Ten commissioner, Tony Petitti, and the commissioner said, hey, this is the deal. We're looking to suspend Jim Harbaugh, the football coach of Michigan. And the president said, well, if you suspend Jim Harbaugh without, a proper investigation, we will take legal action and pursue a lawsuit against the Big Ten. Interestingly enough, after that happened, more news actually just broke, and the Big Ten previously was going to just give punishment to Michigan by way of the NCAA. They were going to just defer it and put it in the hands of the NCAA. But now the Big Ten is reportedly set to give Jim Harbaugh a multi-game suspension.
Yeah.
But if this happens, which Michigan has actually just officially received a notice from the Big Ten, Michigan will have 48 hours, 2 days to get back to the Big Ten. And if not, Jim Harbaugh facing a suspension, and Michigan can be suing the Big Ten. This is causing huge ruckus because we all know that if Michigan does actually sue the Big Ten, that it is going to open the discovery process, which will be very messy. Because if that happens, then Michigan will have to hand over a lot of emails, a lot of texts, their computers, phone calls, just about everything that they are prohibiting the NCAA from using in this investigation.
Yeah. I think that when you bring in the Big Ten into the investigation, and it's now going to be like the University of Michigan versus Big Ten, I think we're going to be opening up the floodgates to hell in a way, because there's going to be there's already so much evidence stacked against Michigan that it's reached this point. You know what I'm saying? I was telling you last week, I really think this is Jim Harbaugh's downfall. He's on a slippery rock, and he's literally hanging on by a thread right now. I think that him trying to, kind of ignore it and kind of push it over to the back burner and just try to say, hey, I'm just focused on, football. I'm just focused on winning these games. I'm just focused on beating Ohio State this year. I think he doesn't have time for that. This is a serious matter. He's not untouchable. You know what I'm saying? Before he beat Ohio State, he had a horrible season, multiple horrible seasons. They weren't producing the results that they wanted. He's been with the university for so long, they're going to fight for him in a way. But when you involve the Big Ten Conference, I think that this is also going to prompt them to look into other universities that we may not necessarily want to know. Or I would say more so we didn't expect. You know what I'm saying? It's just going to, I hope they just focus on Michigan. Not saying that just because, we're Buckeyes, but I just hope that in a way they get what's coming to them, because there has been a lot of questionable things about when it comes to the sign stealing, when it comes to how they know certain stuff, when it comes to Ohio State, the long history of that. And I think that this is going to reveal a lot of that. I think that, the NCAA, I think they're trying to hold people more accountable in a way. And I think that since they actually just, reimbursed the Colorado football players who had their jewelry stolen, I think that that's also a sign of how much progress the NCAA is making in these types of sticky situations. But I think with Jim Harbaugh, he's in hot water. I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, he may not be able to coach again after this investigation is over with. And I think if that's the case, people will be okay with that. I think people will be okay with that. It's unfortunate, though, because of the way it's happening and the timing. And they're coming off of a pretty good season right now to some people. But, I mean, the fact that the Big Ten is ready to get down and dirty, I would like to know. I'm very, very curious.
Well, also, to be clear, for those that don't know, the NCAA, it will take a very long time for the NCAA to punish Michigan. If the NCAA does punish Michigan, Michigan won't face any sort of punishment this season. The only people that can punish Michigan this season is the Big Ten. And that's why many other Big Ten teams are pressuring the Big Ten to make rule some sort of punishment this season, because they're the only ones who can do so. And that's where this whole suspension for Jim Harbaugh comes in at, but that's also where Michigan is threatening to sue the Big Ten if they do take action.
I mean, there's only how many games left, you know what I'm saying? And does it make sense to suspend him right now, or are we just kind of trying to make it, difficult for him?
But that's the interesting thing. Other schools want Michigan to be punished
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah.
And so, if the Big Ten doesn't do anything, it's almost like, well, what are you encouraging? On the flip side, like you said, well, it's only like a couple games in the season. Why are you trying to suspend us now? I guess, that can be a viewpoint from Michigan. More than anything, I think the swing process is just a way for Michigan to get through the conference championships and the playoffs this season. Because
it is.
Happens, again, Michigan will at least be able to finish out the season and possibly win the conference championships and make it to the playoffs. But I did use some reactions from fans after the latest news about Michigan possibly suing the Big Ten if the Big Ten makes a rule on suspending Coach Harbaugh. Some people are in favor of it, some people aren't. But I did find some reactions that are very interesting, and I'm going to share them with you.
Okay.
The first one, I love for Michigan to sue and have to go through the discovery process and turn over all their emails and texts. Then we'd really get some details. The stuff coming out in the middle is the tip of the iceberg material. Another person said, repeat after me. If Michigan sues, there will be a discovery process. All evidence the Big Ten and the NCAA have can be considered. Harbaugh, other Michigan coaches, Stallions, and his merry espionage crew will all be disposed under oath. That will be a sports popcorn event of the century. Michigan believes that the Big Ten is just doing this as a PR stunt to make the public happy, which I'm sure, they are.
Yeah.
But
there was a strategy behind it. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think more than anything, I think what confuses me so much is just not only the evidence that's stacked against Michigan, but there is the NCAA rule that says absolutely anything and everything that happens within a program falls underneath the hands of the head coach, whether the head coach knew or not. Literally,
very true.
The NCAA head coaches are responsible for all violations within their program, regardless of knowledge, involvement, monitoring of staff, promoting an atmosphere of compliance. So whether Jim knew what was going on or not, he's still going to he has to face some sort of punishment or consequence.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why people are mad about that, because that's an NCAA rule which affected many coaches. It affected Coach Urban Meyer when he had to resign, and coaches underneath his, under him, had a domestic abuse case. We saw it with Michigan State, with their program. I don't understand why people are getting frustrated, with Jim Harbaugh taking some sort of punishment, because whether he knew it or not, he's held responsible, and that's an NCAA law that has been around for years, that can't be changed, based off the person, the team, the situation. So I'm just confused as to honestly what Michigan is fighting against. Also, too, last week we spoke about Stallions and how he was dressed in Central Michigan University gear on their sidelines during the game against Michigan State. It was reported that was in fact him. That was him dressed up.
Yeah,
and
it was.
It honestly is getting to the point of clownery and foolery. Jim, you say that there was no, relationship between you and Stallions, but as a recruiting analyst, why was he on the field? Why was he on the field, period?
Right there.
Why is he
right there?
Why is he holding play calls as a recruiting analyst? Things aren't making sense. And Jim, you can't say that you had no idea or you didn't know who this guy was. God forbid, even if you didn't know, about his sign stealing schemes, your words aren't matching up. It's not matching up. The program's all over the place. Steins was literally all over. I mean, literally, he was all over the country.
Yeah.
So, at this point, if you genuinely did not know, you should not be a head coach, because
at this point,
should not have so much of you shouldn't be dismissed of so much knowledge of what is going on underneath your program. How are you going to be leading a whole program and you didn't know all of this? This guy literally dressed up as a different coach from a different team and snuck onto the sidelines. At this point,
Yeah.
you can't say that you didn't know anymore. You can't. It's not making sense. And I do hope that some sort of consequence will be given. I do.
Yeah, I think that he deserves it. Like I was saying, he's been trying to, turn the blind eye, ignore it, kind of trying to minimize it to where it's not something as big as what we think. But I know this is huge. And yeah, it would be this investigation of the century because that it is Michigan. I think that they have a long history, especially the rivalry with Ohio State. I think that that's why many people kind of want to see him go down because he didn't help the program for so long. Number one, number two, when he was able to beat Ohio State, I think that gave a lot of people hope and faith. They put their hope and faith back in Jim Harbaugh. They don't want to see him go down just yet because he was just able to revive the program within the last 2 years. I just think that he is going to be the example of when the punishment matches the crime. I hope so. I know that 2 games, suspension for 2 games, I think that's nothing.
Yeah.
I think that you're totally right that he should not be a head coach if he had no idea whatsoever about the sign stealing scheme. I definitely think he had knowledge of it. He knows Connor. He communicates with him,
Right.
has to communicate with him. So I don't think that he's going to get a slap on the wrist. I don't think so. And if he does, it's going to cause an uproar. And we may see the uproar when they play Ohio State. I mean, emotions are going to be overflowing in this game because of the rivalry, the history, and then the grit that is always played, that always shows in this game, especially in Ann Arbor. It's just like, it's going to be on a different level. The precedent has been set based off of this investigation. It was strategically planned, like we've been saying, for them to start the investigation now. The timing of firing Connor, he should have been fired already, not just within the last couple of weeks. I think that when it comes to other coaching members, other coaching staff for Ohio State, I think we're going to see more firings. We're going to see more people be held accountable for their part in the sign stealing and the cheating. We're gonna go all the way back to see how long have they been cheating, what games were they cheating at. You know what I'm saying? We already see the lengths that they took. Having somebody dress up in a disguise. I've never heard of anything like that, and then for it to be put on blast in the media the way that it has nonstop, you can't ignore it. And so I think that he's going to be punished in a way where it's going to be very surprising, but not surprising. Only surprising because, oh, it's Jim Harbaugh. You know what I'm saying? But no, this is what he deserves. Do you know how long he's been at this program? Do you know how long they've been cheating? Do you know how long they've been playing dirty and shady? They're going to take it back. And I think that it's about damn time. It just so happens that it's happening in 2023 and it took this long. But once the Big Ten is really involved in looking at things, they're also going to have skeletons coming out of their closet. So the Big Ten, in a way, they need to play their cards right. They need to play chess. And I think that they may win when it comes to Jim Harbaugh, but we'll see. The fact that the floodgates are about to open, it's crazy. And I think that when it comes to Michigan, I think the football program is on the it's on the outs. Not saying that the football program will be eliminated, but they'll have limitations. It's going to change recruits wanting to go to the school. It's going to change a lot. And it's not just Jim Harbaugh's downfall, but the downfall of the football program too. This is not a good look whatsoever. And it's leaving a bad taste in people's mouths. I don't know what Michigan alumni has control over, but I don't even think that's going to do much in this case.
I pulled up a quote from the Nebraska coach. Nebraska just played Michigan earlier this season, and he said in response, of the Michigan case, he said, "I feel bad for our players. We're sitting at 5-4. We own 5-4, but we have one game where the team scouted us. We have two games where the replay was wrong. Replay was handled wrong," he said, in awarding touchdowns to Minnesota and Michigan State. But in regards to Michigan, he did say he felt bad for our players because we had one game where the team scouted us, Michigan.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, Michigan also played Purdue. And prior to the showdown, the said that they had video evidence that Connor Stalions was at their game. And you know what? I'm going to pull up, Michigan, and I said this before, and I encourage everyone to look at Michigan's 2020 year, and then the years they won, 2021 and 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan did not, and I mean they did not. They struggled against a lot of their Big Ten opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Like overnight, the following season, they destroyed them.
Right.
And as I said before, you don't just do this with the same coaches, the same team.
Mm-hmm.
Likely your team is different because a lot of your star players then went on to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just come up with the magic scheme overnight.
Right.
You don't, not with the same coaches.
Right. So it just goes to show you that, first of all, Connor was being paid the big bucks to do this. You cannot say that he wasn't getting money out of this. Money was a motivation behind this. You know what I'm saying? The program is losing money, if anything. They were losing money for some years, and I think that they took this route because they felt like this was the last resort. This is the only way. You know what I'm saying? But it's really bad, and like I said, it's going to affect the program in a way where there are going to be limitations. Recruits are not going to want to go to University of Michigan and be a Wolverine. And it's almost going to be like they're going to be looked at, kind of in a way like as a D2 school. It's going to be just so life-changing for the people who love Michigan and the players. I do feel bad for the players. I don't think that the players know to what extent what was happening as far as with the coaches. So I think, leaving the players, just let them just be players. I don't think that they knew what was truly going on. I think that they held their coaches up to high regard. I think that they were listening, you know what I'm saying? But now I think that they're probably questioning some things, and they probably feel that I think they probably feel some type of betrayal, in a sense, because now this whole investigation has put the spotlight on them, and it makes them also look bad, like guilty by association type of thing. I think that the players are handling it pretty well, but we don't know what's going on mentally. I mean, an investigation during the live season and you still have games to play, that's a lot, you know. And too bad for the players, but it's up to them. It's up to them if they want to stay at the University of Michigan or if they want to transfer. It's really up to them. So they have this option as student athletes still, the integrity of the school is going to change tremendously. This is already a lot to take in and a lot to process. There's so many parts to this investigation that certain things are still going to come to light. And it's just never ending. Like I said, the evidence against them is stacked so high. I don't know what else they haven't done to make sure that they win games or make it to the playoffs or champion. What else haven't they done? Because this is some over the line. I mean, just over the top. I've never seen anything like it. But I'm sorry to say, if it was a university that this could happen to, I'm not mad that it's Michigan.
I pulled up some of their games, just as an example. In 2019, Michigan lost 14-35 to Wisconsin. 2020, 49-11 to Wisconsin. The following year, they 17. The following year was also the year they won the Big Ten Conference out of nowhere, and they blew everyone out of the water parks.
Mm-hmm.
The following year, again, 2022, they blew everyone out of the water parks again, magically. And then went on to playoffs for the year in a row. And this is just with Wisconsin. I mean, you can find this with Michigan State. And you can find this with other universities. They went from badly losing. I mean, 49-11, that's not, you lost.
Yeah.
Like that, baby, you lost. They went from games like that to then blowing people out 49-0.
Right. Make it make sense.
Within a couple months. It's just, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And, it's unfortunate. And like you said, you hope that the Big Ten does reprimand Michigan for what they've done.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, many people fear that that the Big Ten won't punish Michigan, as many hope, in fear of the floodgates of hell opening up. And,
yeah.
And, it's interesting because I wonder if this will lead to other conferences, possibly like the SEC.
Well, oh God.
Right. Is there any injustice things that have happened over in that conference? So it's going to be, it's going to be interesting where this leads. But I mean, Michigan, as you speak, there's just more news dropping out about the program, and one can only imagine what's going to happen.
Well, the good thing that's going to come out of this is that, I mean, honestly, it's making them look so bad that Ohio State is just going to remain to look superb. I mean, they're number one in the country. I think that, this could be payback in a way. Like, Ohio State was supposed to win those games in a way. You know what I'm saying? And I think that may be put on the table as well. Not sure if they've already looked at the footage from the game and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure that's on its way to be happening. Unfortunately, Jim Harbaugh is going to have one of those moments where his back is against the wall. He's going to have to speak up more. He's going to have to reveal some stuff. I mean, he's going to have to just be a little bit more, he's going to have to get his hands dirty. They're already dirty without him actually, saying it. But the fact that he's avoiding it, he's going to have to start opening up and saying things just to kind of protect himself in a way and to save himself, save face for something. I mean, if you want to work in football again, you need to be speaking up right now. This is the time to do it, because like you said, more and more details are going to be revealed. And the more the Big Ten gets involved, the more messy it's going to be. And I mean, skeletons are really going to be showing, to the point where, yeah, it's going to affect the integrity of the football program and the university. I mean, we're going to be getting statements and press conferences from the president of the university. It's just going to get even more worse than what it already is. I've already sensed that. I already think this is the downfall of his career. This is the downfall of the football program as well. The only thing I'm, a little bit more, I have more empathy for are the football players, their students, but these are adults. These coaches are adults, so they know right from wrong.
Right.
And, they know the system. They've been coaching for years. But yeah, this is not good for Michigan. Great for Ohio State though, but no, I'm not going to keep saying that. I just hope that, even if this does resort to something where the SEC not necessarily get involved in this investigation, but yeah, they could start, enforcing certain rules and start looking at things with a scope to see what's really going on, especially also like with teams like Clemson.
Yeah.
That's another team that's already been questionable when it comes to certain things. But, Alabama, almost definitely like one of those untouchable programs is kind of their reputation and kind of like they can do no wrong. But I don't think that same level of respect is held to Michigan. I think the respect is out the window. So I think the SEC would definitely reveal some shady stuff too. But right now it's just Big Ten, and it's gonna get ugly. It's gonna get ugly.
Well, Michigan does play Penn State this weekend, and that's going to be a big game. One of the teams that can knock Michigan out of the playoff picture, outside of Ohio State, late November. So that's definitely going to be a game to look into. I have to be honest though, I'm not even entirely. I mean, I wouldn't watch the game anyway, but it's almost like I don't even care to even see the results. Just because knowing about the whole cheating scandal, it really does question. Is it even almost worth going out there and playing?
Yeah.
I know Deion said, you can have a playbook, but you got to go out there and be, yeah, Deion, but that's like
that works for him.
There was an SEC coach. I want to say, I think it might have been either the coach from LSU or the coach from Ole Miss. Either way, they said when a team does have the information that Michigan allegedly had, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it's almost nearly impossible to play against a team who knows, your handbook.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing a game of spades and who has who in what hand, it makes it 100 times easier.
Right.
If I got that king of eight, that king, that ace, or that joker, baby, it became a lot more easy, And
it's gonna cause some major problems if you know my hand.
Right. But Penn State, they do play Michigan this weekend, so I mean the Nittany Lions can get revenge from their Ohio State loss back with Michigan. But it would mean that Ohio State would have to beat Michigan when they play, because God forbid if Penn State does beat Michigan, but Michigan beats Ohio State, that will surely knock Ohio State out of the playoff picture. Actually,
it would, and I think that Michigan playing Penn State is going to be a good game.
And I think a lot at Penn State. So they're not playing right.
Well, we know Penn State's environment is insane. I mean, the whiteout, the blackout,
the
Penn
blue
State
out
has an environment. Yeah. Their whole environment, shakes the ground. So, I just think that Michigan may be in for a rude awakening this week. And if that rude awakening is them losing to Penn State, plus more details revealed in this investigation, they might as well just go to sleep. They may just, I don't think that they would give up, but I'm sure it's just like, this is just so much and can't believe this is happening. So interesting. I'm excited to see the next details that will be revealed in this investigation. We're going to keep you guys posted because, it's just getting more and more embarrassing for the university. We felt embarrassment before at Ohio State. We've had plenty of stories that made national news and, put us in a bad light, especially with like sexual assault cases and sexual harassment cases with doctors at the universities and stuff like that. So, we know what that's like, but for it to be the football program, that's different, that's supposed to be their moneymaker.
Right.
And this investigation is going to cause them to lose a lot of money as well, especially in the long run. This is going to leave a bad taste in their mouth. Michigan, they're most likely, I think they're going to be looking for a new coach, new coaching staff, new everything.
I wonder if recruiting is going to be affected. And again, you have to remember that Michigan's already going through a recruiting violation investigation from the COVID year. So that's one investigation that the NCAA still, made a ruling over. Now that they have this one on top of it, it can potentially take some years, but it'll be interesting to see how we feel about Michigan now.
Yeah. So, this was awesome. We talked about all these things, but you guys need to make sure you tune in on Friday because, we're going to be talking about the latest Michigan news, of course, but there are some other things I'm going to talk about that's really important. So thank you guys for tuning in. That is the end of episode 11. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. We're on TikTok, and make sure you follow Paris as well. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and thanks for keeping it raw and real and off the fields.
OH.
Bye.